Hey everybody, good evening. How we doing? And welcome along to the Paranormal Monkey podcast again. So it is going to be like a battle royale. Well, it's not, but we've got obviously we've got the amazing Kenny Biddle and the amazing Kev Kerr on. Between the three of us, we're going to just thrash it out with the paranormal this evening. So without further ado, let's bring them both in. Mr. Kenny Biddle, there he is.
Hello.
And hello, and Mr. Kev Kerr.
Hello.
How are we doing, gents?
Good.
Not bad. Yourself?
Yeah. Oh, always good. Always good.
Always good.
Wow.
Do you have a jumper on today?
No.
No jumper.
The jumper is going on tomorrow when I'm at 30 East Drive, just because it's ready.
Good.
But I can just take. I mean, like, so I'm going to try and do a little live stream from there tomorrow, so that'll be all good. Okay, so we've got plenty to kind of thrash out between the three of us, or between you two, certainly. So you've both been on the podcast before, so I don't want to do tell us your name and tell us where you're from. But do you want to say basically your particular viewpoint or your particular personal viewpoint of the paranormal generally? That's a bit of a tricky one. Who wants to go first? Kev, you can go first. Well done.
I'll go first. So, I'd say I put myself down as what's known as a open-minded investigator. That means I'm skeptical, I critical think, but I still look for the paranormal. I still go around, do investigations. I still go around in the community. I surround myself with people of all different types and backgrounds and that kind of thing. So I'm a skeptic, a critical thinker, but also still a paranormal investigator.
Cool. And Kenny?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, I go around, I do investigate locations and for specific claims. I'm not going in as a believer. I am very skeptical of things. Most people call me a skeptic. I am an investigator. That's my job title. So I don't actually go skeptic anywhere. That's not something that I do. It's just the approach that I take. So I'm into physical evidence, logical conclusions, and I try to figure out the mystery. I think people do have experiences. I don't always agree on their interpretation or conclusion of those. And that's usually based on the data. So
I'd say, I mean, from me personally, I might be wrong on this one, but Kenny, you seem to me as coming from a very technical-minded engineering, but almost background, where you're kind of looking at equipment, looking at things that have been done, whether that's looking at equipment that people are using and pulling it apart, essentially.
Right.
And
I have a mechanical background. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kev, you strike me as somebody who looks more into the psychology of what's going on. Is that fair or not fair?
I'm because I'm an engineer by trade. I'm a civil, mechanical, radiological, and electrical engineer. But I love the brain, and so what I study constantly all the time is the brain. So psychology becomes such a massive thing for me in the paranormal.
Right.
Okay, so brain and mechanics basically is between me and Kenny.
I think it's the same. I think we pretty much share the same interests and hobbies because behavior is everything. Why people think the way they do, how they think, the basis for their beliefs. You have to understand where they're coming from in order to understand how to approach them. Because you don't want to go in just confrontational. You want to understand where they're coming from. And I think for both of us, we have the perspective of we were in the ghost hunters years ago. We did all this. So I went through that and I shared the similar beliefs and ideas and ideologies of the people that I engage with now. But I've learned more since then and dove into it. And both of us have dived into different topics, deep dives to really understand what's happening. And again, our backgrounds, we have the tools and the skills in order to understand a lot of these gadgets and a lot of the approaches. So,
well, what we're going to do basically this evening is because we've got a kind of lot to try and cover and a lot of ground to cover. I know we could easily spend a couple of hours on this stuff. I want to go through a number of things, whether it's investigation techniques, ethics, equipment, like you mentioned, Kenny. But I think I need to really start. And the reason I've got you on is because you are the antidote, I think, to some of the questions that were in last week's podcast. Now, last week's podcast, I'm not going to attack Ian, the guest who was on last week, but he was from a residential. He does residential cases. Now, from that, there were a lot of criticisms and comments and things that came out of that, which I think we really, really do need to address, because everyone talks about ruined locations and abandoned locations and things like that, but we don't necessarily, and also like those paid places that people go to and pay money to go into somewhere which is supposedly haunted, but we don't really talk about residential places and when families are involved. And I want to really focus on that for the moment, first off, because there's a lot of things that came out of that conversation, which I know that you were very critical. Both of you were very critical of, which is fair enough, because but fundamentally, what are the main issues for you surrounding residential cases? Don't know who wants to go first on that one.
I'll take it first. So I think the problem is people forget that residential investigations isn't going in to find ghosts or evidence of the paranormal. It doesn't involve that at all. That's like the last thing you do if you ever get to it. People kind of get lost in the difference between what an investigation is when you've got your EMF meters and you're in a location that you've paid to be at, or you've got your team with you, and being inside someone's house, which is their safe space and the place they live, and they might be experiencing something that they perceive to be paranormal. And people come into the field and they're like, oh yeah, I can investigate. I now know how to call out and put an EMF meter in the middle of the room, so now I'm an investigator.
Yeah.
And then someone says, oh, my auntie's got a ghost in their house, and they go, oh cool, can we go in and investigate? Like, yeah, I don't see why not. And the auntie goes, oh, okay, fine. Lets them in. They come in and they put their EMF meter down, they call out, they do a Ouija board, they do all these things that they see on telly, and they're completely uneducated in the field of actual investigation. They're used to seeing what they see on the TV, they're used to hearing what other teams out there who've only done locations do, and they come in and they don't realise that actually what they're doing is extremely dangerous, not just for them, but also for the individual whose house it is. And that doesn't even become a thing. There's people I've spoken to and explained this to, and they go, oh, wow. Especially when I do my workshop, I've got a couple of slides on residential, which isn't, this is how you do it. It's, you don't do it. And unless you've got all of this back in and, all of this knowledge, then you can start looking at doing that. But until then, nothing makes you like a residential investigation, a residential investigator.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenny?
Yeah, what he said.
Oh, thanks for that, Kenny.
There you go.
Anyway,
I'll do all the work.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're there's always that debate. Do you do residential cases? Do you not do residential cases? And if somebody reaches out to me for help, and I mean, I'm always up to help anyone. I mean, if I can, and if they give me some claims that seem interesting, and I'll give them ideas. And we do a lot of conversation online because we can weed out a lot of bullshit way ahead of time. And I can give examples if they have photos or videos that show weird things, and I can replicate it and show them like, this is probably what happened, especially given your camera, your make and model and all this, and we can get into details. And I often can solve a case just that way. There's no need to visit. But if there's something that's going on and the explanations aren't good enough, or they're more curious and they don't fit perfectly, even from my approach, like, all right, it could be this, but you're saying other details that don't really fit. Yeah, I'll come out.
I was going to say, would you be willing to step over that threshold? Because I would rather, me personally, signpost others. You know, I would you know, in the UK, I would signpost the SPR, who have, you know, and who are extremely knowledgeable about, you know, all manner of things, or ASAP, or, you know, some, you know, the big societies. I would much rather do that than actually physically want to go in, because I think as soon as you go into somebody else's property, you are there's so many minefields you've got to kind of be aware of, I think.
Well, there is, and there's disclaimers that come with this. It's not that I'm going in, because typical ghost hunting show or groups, they go in there, they have their matching bowling shirts, okay? They have their pelican cases full of gadgets, and they look sciencey. They look like, you know, a team that likes to bowl on Thursday nights, and they come in and they are perceived as an authority. They have a social media, they have a website, they have a YouTube channel, they have all this equipment, they have the you know, the decals on their van and stickers on their notebooks and stuff like that, if they even carry notebooks, because most of them don't. And they go in as this authority, and they spend 4, 5, 6 hours or so ghost hunting. That's not what I do, and that's what I explained beforehand. Tell me the claims that you think are what's going on, and let's take those claims, separate them into testable claims, non-testable claims, and I focus on the testable claims. When I go to the house, I tell them I am not an expert in all of these fields. This is my background. This is what I can help with, but I'm coming here specifically to look at the claims that you stated are happening, because I need to see, quote unquote, the scene of the crime. Because there's details here that you might not notice or think are important to figuring out what the mystery is, and I'm going to pick it up, hopefully, and that's what we do. I don't sit there for hours. I don't walk around with my K2 light up buzz.
You don't? You don't?
I do not.
My K2 is in my bullshit corner.
I see it. I like that. I'm going to have to make one of those. But we address each claim. Like, all right, claim number 1, you said that you had a pile of dishes that fell over by itself. Let's go look and see what that looks like. And we'll figure out that, okay, you had a pile of dishes like this high, and something was going to fall, and we recreate it. And I'll go through like that and say, once we're done, I say, are you satisfied with this answer? Like, did we recreate it? Yes. Okay, we're done with this. Move on to the next one.
One thing I wanted to say was, though, is I mean, I don't know, like I say, I almost kind of can't blame the typical ghost hunter for this one. I have to almost blame TV shows for, I mean, publicly, it's almost giving the green light for me. I mean, there's a TV show in the UK that almost gives a green light to, it's okay to go into the psychic medium into somebody's home and reveal that they have a demon within half an hour of them being in there. And then but then other investigators see that and go, okay, well, that's the way we're going to do it, you know? So we're a little bit like the TV show, and maybe we'll get a show like that and we'll become popular on YouTube or whatever. I mean, that is a real issue. I see that as a real issue. I mean, Kev, am I just, you know, is TV to blame here or not?
It has a part to play, definitely. It's kind of, when we look at those shows, people who have an interest, they're going to watch those things first. They're going to get their information from those things. You're not, many people nowadays who turn and say, here's a book, they'll be like, nah, I'll do the thing that's going to give me the information quicker, which is TV, social media, YouTube, whatever. They're just going to bite size it all the way through. And then they see that happen, and then you get these investigators who are on telly, and outside of TV, they may be fantastic investigators. I don't know, but for the point of the show, they're there to help someone, and they think they're helping by giving them paranormal-based answers instead of the answer. You know, I have heard from that particular show that they do have a really good aftercare setup.
Whatever.
I'm not, if I see it for myself, you know, but let's damage them and then patch them up seemed a bit strange for me. But it's kind of that aspect of people who come into the paranormal learn from TV shows. And someone questioned on my page, I put up a lot of questions. You know, I like to see where people's heads at with different things. And someone said about it being unfair that I would name a certain TV show. And it's like, well, actually, these TV shows are responsible for the evolution of paranormal investigation. Whether it's like a flock of people suddenly start to become more skeptical and critical minded, or if they start to believe that these things are real and they need to up their game and have the best equipment, and someone else has made this bit of kit that talks to ghosts and we need that one. They have a really, really big influence. But again, it is about whether they want to gain information and they want to learn, or if they just want to do this really cool thing. And the TV shows like that make it seem cool and like I'm helping someone, so I'm justified. And it's a psychological minefield.
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't be a problem to name a TV show. TV shows out there in public. Once it's in the public eye, it's open for criticism and critique. So if we want to name drop a TV show because that's the example, that's where a practice or a gadget came from, then hell yeah, I'm gonna say the name because that's who we're blaming.
Yeah, it is really interesting that, you know, like I know that the debunkers out there, I know Mythos is in the chat. I'm sure Biddle will watch this eventually and stuff when it really gets round to it. but certain TV shows like the one, I'm going to say it, Help My House is Haunted, right? In the UK is horrendous for this kind of stuff. And it's really, what I find really interesting is that they are extremely good at, certain individuals in that TV show are extremely good at blocking and copyright striking debunkers for daring to kind of mention their show. And I think they're hardly being open and honest about what they're doing here, or coming on something like this and kind of debating the benefits or not of their show. Because I think, you know, I think that's a real issue. Right. Just moving away. Well, kind of actually not really moving away from this, because obviously you're both extremely skeptical, and this may seem like a glib kind of question, but how would you, whether not a residential case, but let's say there's been a report of a haunted property in your area, and it's picking up a bit of kind of sway online, and people are talking about a particular place as being haunted, and they've invited you to go in. How would you investigate a location? You know, what equipment? What's your mindset? How would you set it up? Everything. What exactly would you do?
So, do you want to go first, Kenny?
Yeah. Well, first I'll take, like, when you describe us as extremely skeptical, I just want to address that real quick. It's
here we go.
Yeah, bitch, I'm gonna do it. Skepticism means you have doubt. That's all. We are, everyone watching this, no matter how much you believe, you are skeptical about more than one thing in the world, and we just apply more skepticism to paranormal claims. We don't take things at face value. I don't believe an experience just because you said so. And you had an experience, because you could be mistaken. And our job is to investigate all the details and see if you were mistaken, or if you were making something up, or just misinterpret it, or what. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Yes, we are extremely skeptical, but it's just because we have a doubt and we want to know the truth. But if it comes to investigating a place, my first step is, what are the claims? What are the claims being made? And then now I have to figure out, all right, so what can I test while I'm there? Because I'm not going to waste my time sitting in a room talking to the dark. That's a waste of time. I'm not going to wait for a gadget to light up, because again, that's a waste of time. I know how most of the gadgets work. They're going to light up. But I want to know what the claims are, and then I will research the history to make sure there is something to investigate. Because if the house or the owners of the house are saying, hey, this person died and this is the ghost because they died falling down the stairs, and you find out that person never lived in that house, never died in that house or anything, there is no mystery. It's a nonsensical story. So there's no reason for me to go. So that's the start. I mean, there's a lot more involved, and it really depends on what equipment I'm going to take. And I'm not talking ghost hunting equipment like spirit level, tape measure, luminol, this test for blood, or whatever. It depends on the claims.
Yeah.
So that's my short answer.
Okay, Kev.
So the easiest way. So these notepads I give out when I do my workshop, and there's a list on both inside faces of.
We cannot see anything because of your green screen, Kev.
Because
Jesus Christ.
Only because you two got such lovely offices, you just make me feel bad. but I give these out for a reason, because in the workshop there's a lot of information. But for me, if someone say called me and said, and like you say, if it's not residential, so no one's living there, but they believe, there's something happening in there. So, okay, fine. I will ask them various questions about what they experienced. I'd be there myself, and I'd walk around and I'd look at the plumbing and the heating. There's multiple points on that. I'd look at the windows, the flooring, the ceilings, the walls, ventilation systems, the lighting, all the environmental factors of the place. I'd be looking at the outside interference, all of these things that could give a rational explanation. And I'd love to get past that bit where that doesn't give the answer, and then suddenly go, this could be something, but very, very, very rarely I can't even think of an example when I've gone into a situation like that where I have gone, oh, there's no explanation for that. If you're looking at all those things, I've looked at the building, I've looked at the way it moves, looked at the outside factors, I've looked at the majority of it, and at this point all I've done is walk around my notepad. I haven't taken out any equipment for any reason, bar my notepad and pen to take note of these different things, to say, okay, I can see why you might feel like you've experienced that. And usually in that situation,
I was going to say, why do you think? Sorry to interrupt, but why do you think, like Kenny was, I think it's Kenny was saying, most ghost hunters don't even have a notepad? Why do you think that is, when it is the most important thing to note down everything as you go around?
I think a lot of them believe their brain is fully capable of just absorbing this information and accurately relaying it.
Yeah.
When you first realize that isn't the case, you begin to realize that when you've written something down, you've made quite a solid piece of data that's come from you as soon as the things happened, so that you can't turn around in a week's time and go, yeah, but those windows, they were fully sealed, when actually you've got it written down, old windows, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Because your brain will go, there's a part of you, whether you like it or not, as an investigator, especially a paranormal investigator, that kind of wants to find a ghost. Kind of like there's always that bias in there that's going, oh, come on, maybe this will be the one. And you need to control that, and you can't do that with your own brain. The same tool can't stop that from happening, and that bias will always sit there. So you need to write these things down. And I say it in my workshops all the time, like write all this stuff. So you've got that data. The moment something's happening, you've got it on paper. It's not on camera. You're not showing it out to the world. It probably is not going to blow your YouTube channel up or anything like that. But that data is correct for that situation that you were in. And that's what's important. Like, you've got to realize that your brain is so flawed, unbelievably flawed. And if you're writing this stuff down as it happens, you take away that risk of that data being transformed in some way.
That's
so
perfect.
Notepad and pen.
I agree. You have to write it down. I take a notebook. I have my notebook at the time, and I put everything: pictures, notes, even post-it notes that are in here that I put on top of it, because you need to know exactly what was going on at the time. And I rely on that, because you're not going to remember. You seriously are not going to remember what you did a week ago and all the details. And when you're doing an investigation, details matter. They really do. And if you get the details wrong, then we don't know what's going on. And that would lead to a conclusion of, I don't know.
I was going to say, there's a couple of things that just came out of that. I mean, like what Kev was saying, I absolutely agree with all of that. Because, I mean, the thing is, which, again, this is a kind of a mindset thing, is I've seen so many ghost hunters saying, people saying, oh, what's the best equipment you can take? And they say, oh, the best equipment is our eyes and our ears. which I think is absolute horseshit.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's not at all. You know, and I'll just show them some pareidolia or optical illusion. Think, there you go.
Mhm.
That is our brains in action, making shit up.
Yeah.
You know, straight away.
I mean,
And go on.
for me, standard equipment for me is my camera. I take a 360 camera just so I can have a good wraparound view.
Yeah.
I take a tape measure, my spirit level. I have a anemometer for wind speed, for any breezes coming in the windows or under doors, so I can see like how strong it is. I take what else do I have? That's about it for just standard basic toolkit.
Yeah.
That's it. And then it really depends on the claims that I receive, and then research them to see if there's do the claims actually have the historical backing to them? Yes. Okay. Now we'll look into it. So you know, obviously, if they say somebody walks down the stairs every night, I'm going to want like a video camera or 2 or 5 on that area, or you know, if a pram is pushed down the stairs.
Yeah, we'll talk about.
I went there.
Yeah. Because what I think, and I mean, it just seems to me that, you know, when you kind of look into ghost hunters, quote unquote, way back when, you know, whether it's the Harry Price of this world, or, you know, there's Peter Underwood in the UK, obviously, and their equipment, they took equipment, but their equipment was all around debunking. First and foremost, it was either exposing fakery, or it's measuring, and it's and being very kind of scientific and methodical in how they were setting stuff up. Over time, we have not got better. We have got worse and worse. And the equipment we're now taking is to find ghosts. You know, whether it's using K2 meters or REM pods or spirit boxes, it's along the way, debunking has become less and less of a priority, and the ghost is, you know, or showing something that may be a ghost is become, you know, for views, clicks, subscribers, everything else. Is that a fair kind of point?
I think there's a disconnect now with the term investigator. Because they don't. I think the majority of the community doesn't realize that means you're supposed to fucking investigate. Like, that's it. I mean, most of the community I would label more as ghost provers, because that's all they want to do. They go in there looking for anything that would support their belief. They're not investigating the mystery. They're not investigating the claim. So calling themselves paranormal investigators, one, they gave themselves that title, and 2, they're not living up to it because they're not investigating. They're just trying to do anything they can to promote their belief, to give you an exciting and jump scare filled, ridiculous, screaming for no freaking reason kind of video to get clicks and views.
And everything in between.
Yeah, we look at it as an investigation. So go into the history, go into the people that lived there, find out what happened, look at the newspapers, look at any documents you can find, talk to neighbors, talk to former employees, figure out what's going on, visit the location, take pictures, look at the details, take measurements, real measurements, not bullshit like I walk in here for 5 seconds and now I know what the brace readings are. No, you don't. Get the fuck out of here. See, now I'm going on rants now.
I can.
Damn it, Dustin.
It's easy.
Yeah, pretty much the same. It's just that thing in between. Like, as we've evolved, we've just become. I used to love Harry Price. I used to love his work, and that was kind of a big part of me being in the paranormal. Like, he was my Marvel superhero in that sense. It was just amazing, and that methodology was amazing. But at the same time, as all that was kind of happening, there was also the opposite, the same as there is now, where you've got the believers and the mediums and the psychics all trying to scam people out of money and make money from what they're doing. But what I find really interesting now is back when sort of me and Kenny were, just say, all the skeptics on the scene, you know, those boo hiss, those horrible people. And you would set up, say, a social media page like Parationalize. I remember Parationalize was stuck at 137 followers forever, for literally probably about 2 years,
Yeah.
because what I had to say went against that believerhood aspect. Now, so that was, God, 10, 12 years ago. And then all of a sudden now, debunkers and skepticism is becoming more popular again.
Yeah.
And that's I think in line with when, we had the Harry prices, is that kind of he gained fame through writing his books, the same way if we're a debunker we could gain fame by being on YouTube and doing social media and that kind of stuff. So like the debunker is becoming more popular, where everyone's getting bored with not really finding anything ghost wise and understanding that you don't, unless you overlay a load of bullshit on top, and then it seems entertaining and fun. But with debunking, actually finding the actual answer is more fun
Yeah.
than
Do
going
you
after
think
the ghost.
do you think things are getting better or worse?
It's
Because obviously there's the rise of I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, but there's the rise of the fake channels, but also the rise of the debunker and the communities around debunking.
But the
You got
problem is the rise of the debunkers. It concerns me. Nothing against debunkers and stuff, but as when I talk at Parameet, my talk is going to be about sensible skepticism.
yeah,
And we've seen a lot of things go backwards and forwards after the Pramgate situation and all that, where a debunker can come forward and just say, "I know what that is. It's this," which is just as bad and dangerous as a believer going, "It's a ghost."
yeah,
And it's finding that balance. Now, I've made the mistake. Kenny's probably made the mistake as
Yeah.
we learn and we get more information, and we grow and we evolve as we go. And it's a bit of a worry when debunkers are kind of more chasing the how many people can I get to my channel more than let's look at this rationally and logically, and actually to put this video out, I'm going to have to do digging and investigate this properly and then put that information out. Whereas we're not doing that. We're giving into the algorithm, we're giving into the requirements to build a channel, to build a social media reputation, that kind of stuff. Whereas actually as a debunker, you should go, I see that. I don't care about the wave that's coming through, the popularity wave of it.
yeah,
I see it. My initial comments are this, but I'm going to go and look deeper into that. And then later on, after you've done all that work, then put out another video saying, okay, I've looked really deep into it. My initial assessment was this. What I found is this, and this. And it's done. And that's how you be a really good debunker. If you jump on something straight away, if you take it personally and you have a vendetta or anything else, you're not doing a good job as a debunker. And I'm saying that as a debunker, and come at me, bro. I don't give a shit. Like it makes no difference to me. I'm not after popularity. What I'm after is the truth of the paranormal, what it really is, all those answers. So it's got better because more people are involved, but it's got worse because the quality is going downhill.
right. Yeah.
Everybody wants to join in, and there's that wave of popularity, and people want to ride that wave, and you don't want to debunk stuff just to be a part of the debunking community.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that, and I always say, and despite what everyone else out there says, I am not a debunker. Again, it's like I'm a.
Should
I
put
take
on a
skeptical
t-shirt,
approach.
Kenny.
I don't go out to debunk things. I go out to investigate.
But that means you're a believer, right? If you're not a debunker, then you're a believer.
Oh my goodness!
Like, no, like.
But yeah, you're right. That's the mentality. But no, like debunking is a result. You were taking the bunk, the nonsense out of a claim. So that's a result of your investigation. So we should be focusing on investigating rather than trying to debunk. Let's investigate. And that's exactly what Kev was describing. The people that actually take the time, like, here are my initial thoughts, calmly, present them calmly, sensibly, and with disclaimers. Like, just for the initial, I saw 20 seconds of a video. This is my initial thought, but it needs more research. I need to look into it more. I need to talk to the people, and then go do a full deep dive into it, and then put out your results. And that's what you do. You don't want to overexert yourself. None of us know everything.
Yeah.
None of us are experts in every field. I don't put out a video every day or every other day. I don't put out a video every other week because they take a long time to properly research the background, the people involved, the location, the experiences people are having, because you have to reach out and interview everyone separately, not just do a knee-jerk reaction. And I think one of you, I forget who touched on it, if you're emotional about it, if you get emotionally involved, you need to step away.
Yeah.
You need to back up. If you take that knee-jerk reaction and fire back at somebody, all you're doing is being angry about it, and you're going to make mistakes. If I don't know something, if I usually do that, I write something up and then I walk away. I don't hit send.
Mm-hmm.
And I say sometimes, like, the best choice I've made is to hit the delete button sometimes, because it was just done in anger and I made mistakes during that. And Kev, you're right. Like, I've made that mistake where I put something out too soon and got it all wrong. And it just makes it worse.
Does that mean then that if something, let's say, for instance, you witness something paranormal that you can't explain, would you rather just say, I haven't been able to explain that yet? Or would you be more tempted to go, actually, everything I'm seeing looks, sounds, and appears to be paranormal. I've got it on tape. I've recorded it. But are you more other well, it's not paranormal because it's not proven. Therefore, I cannot regard that as paranormal.
It's an interesting question because, like, again, like, define paranormal. What does that mean? Like, see, look, you're stunned. You're like, well, I don't know. Like, that's a wide net. So I don't know what looks paranormal.
Yeah.
I don't know what sounds paranormal. We're so jaded on Hollywood movies and special effects. We've seen so much. Like, what does paranormal look like or sound like? I don't know. But if I was in a situation where I experienced something, my first thing is, all right, investigative mode. Let's figure out recreate my steps. What's around me? What's going on? What's outside? What's this? What information do I have right now? And what do I need?
So, okay, yeah. So let's say, for instance, playing devil's advocate on this one. Let's say you go somewhere supposedly haunted, you see an apparition, you get the holy grail of holy grails, you see an apparition of a figure walking towards you, then it just disappears. Are you seriously going to sit there and go, well, that wasn't a ghost, because what is paranormal?
I've seen multiple full apparitions.
No, multiple. I would say my first thought was, wow, what just happened?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what just happened. Like, am I tired? Is it really late? Was I dozing off? I'm not gonna dismiss it right away. I'm gonna try and figure out what happened. But then, because it happened to me, and especially like the situation you're describing, I'll try to figure it out. But I'm going to turn over all the information and data over to somebody else.
Yeah.
And say, here, this happened to me. I'm too close to it. I'm already set in my way, and I'm going to look at it from a certain viewpoint. I need an outsider's perspective, and I'll take it to several other people that I work with and say, here, like, tell me what you would come up with on this, and just look for that. Because I can't say, I don't know. Did I hallucinate? I don't know. It really depends. And I understand you're trying to give an example so we can work with it, but there's so many other factors that we would look for. Again, like, how late is it? Is it way past my bedtime? Have I been drinking? Which is a good chance.
Been on coffee. Yeah.
Like, was there something else? Was somebody vaping? Some kind of like, wee kind of stuff. And I got whiff of it, and I hallucinated. I don't know. So there's a lot of factors involved.
You say you've witnessed multiple things,
like I've had so many personal experiences, some really crazy ones. I said about the one at Jamaica Inn with that smoky thing that you got in the background. I think back to it, I'm like, fucking hell. Like, most of the time isn't when I'm not walking around with my notepad or my camera or my something that I can log that with and say, right, okay, let's take a look at it. But as Kenny said, as soon as that happens, you don't go, oh my God, that was the ghost of a small boy and whatever, and then that was exactly what I saw, and now I believe. I
Yeah.
sit there and I self-analyze. The big thing on here is personal emotional awareness. I suddenly go, oh, all right, was it? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 7 this morning. I've been to work, and then I've gone out and investigated this location, and I'm in a dark place, and I'm expecting to find ghosts. Okay, oh, right. What did I actually see? And then I break it down because it's my personal experience on my own with no cameras, nothing else. If I've got a camera, fantastic. And a couple of times I have had cameras and there's nothing. So again, I come back to that psychological aspect and I go, yeah, to be fair, I was exhausted then, but cool
Right.
experience for me, and I don't go to someone else. Well, they definitely exist because I had this experience. I go, I had a weird experience when these were the factors that I was in, and that's what makes a big difference. Like filming Somerset Supernatural, having you. I don't know, Justin, if you saw the episode. I know it went out to different people, um, but what happened to me then was a
Oh,
major paranormal
around the table.
yeah, it was a
Oh yeah.
major experience for me,
Yeah.
and I had set up that room, and I had set up the controls, and I had everything sort of in place in a very comfortable zone for me as an investigator, and still something happened that shouldn't have been possible in that scenario.
Yeah.
So I sat there and the camera got my face, and I wish I could show everyone, but I've got to wait for it to come out and do all that stuff. But like my face was like, oh fuck, because I didn't have any like I was thinking there's got to be a rational explanation. There's none, and then it as it rolled in more, it's like I still can't get a rational explanation. So that started me off down a massive like. Since then, I've been speaking to Tony Hayes from the SPR and ASAP, talking about rapping and knocking. I've been designing different pieces of equipment so I could test that if it does happen again. I've been down a rabbit hole with it because it covered all factors in my head that was like this shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
So I didn't say, oh my God, this is paranormal. I just said, how can we collect data from this that can help to move things forward? I didn't run around going, oh my God, there was a ghost, there was a poltergeist, this is what happened. I took all of the raw footage from the guy who's producing it and said, I want to see all of it. I want to see the audio. I want to see everything.
Yeah.
And everything lined up with previously gained data about poltergeist activity. And that was amazing. So I was like, oh, cool. So how do I do better? Like next time I need to be prepared. Next time I need to make sure I've got something in place. Change your methodology to allow for these additional things that might be happening. Add more controls, whatever. So having those experiences as a skeptic, you are still prone to the same things that believers are, and we've got the same problems with our brain that kick in those moments. So personal experience is personal experience. If you want to be a good investigator, you need to be ahead of that.
Yeah.
You need to be ready for that and aware of that.
I'm going to go on to people's questions in a second, but just one final thing. This could be as quick or as long as you like, guys. But in terms of ghost hunters going into location, what is the single biggest mistake these ghost hunters make on entering a supposed haunted property?
Single
biggest mistake. Single biggest mistake.
One.
Yeah. I know there's multiple.
I think. Oh my gosh. I think the one of the biggest mistakes would be their goal. The goal of going in, because I think their goal is to go in and find proof of ghosts using very flawed methods, and that leaves out the family, the homeowner, the staff, whoever's there. That doesn't take into consideration how they have to deal with that later on. And it's pretty much, and I know some people are going to get pissed off at this, but I think it's a very selfish approach, because the teams are going in there looking just for what they can get to put on their social media and their pages and their YouTube channels in order to promote themselves, instead of actually helping the person that called them.
Mm-hmm.
Kev, don't say the same as him, because that's just...
No. I'm trying to let's cover more because we can. I think it's, as we mentioned earlier, about that whole idea that you, the most important, I don't worry, I don't need any equipment because I've got my eyes and ears, I've got my senses, that's all I need. That mentality is just undermines everything that they could possibly do. In regards to driving forward anything in regards to paranormal investigation or research or anything.
That opens you up to misinterpretations later on down the road and changing your story. So yeah,
absolutely. Okay, getting to questions. Kaza, before we do that, Kaza, thank you so much for the gifted memberships. You are absolute angel. I can't say it, I can't stop basically saying this, but it really, really, really does help the channel hugely. So thank you so much, Kaza. Okay, I did come to go to a couple of questions. Catherine, question for Kenny: what would it actually take for you to say that something was 100% paranormal? I.e., what proof?
It's a difficult question because there's so many scenarios that we could look at, and I think for 100%, I guess, proof would have to be good experiments in place with quality controls, tight controls over it. You control for all the variables possible, and then you take that data, you have it independently analyzed and looked at, and then try to replicate it. And if it can be replicated, then we have something. But unfortunately, most of these experiences are one-offs, or they're so far and few in between of repeated occurrences, and you don't have good data. We've talked about like eyewitness testimony, which is very subjective. It's based on your interpretation of what you saw, if you saw everything or experienced everything. What the gadgets that are in use, for the most part, are useless. To be honest, they're not collecting the data that we need to analyze later. So it's a very difficult question to answer, and I hope I don't feel. I hope it's not like I'm trying to dodge the question, because it's just not
you are.
Answer for you. I'm sorry. Next time I'm just going to be like, nothing.
That's better. Okay. One here from Roger saying, for both of you, what would you say to someone that just says there's no such thing as ghosts?
Probably go, yeah, probably. Most of the time when someone says to me, and it does, let's say, my life isn't about the paranormal outside of this kind of thing. It's say a normal person doing normal things, and when someone finds out what I do, it's there's no such thing as ghosts, and then usually within 15 minutes later they say, oh well, had this one weird thing happen, or had this one strange thing happen. Like, everyone's got a ghost story, but especially my generation are kind of from the idea that like ghosts don't exist, it's just the wind, it's all that kind of thing. And actually people do have these strange experiences they can't explain, which we put to the idea of a ghost. And usually the person who goes, there's no such thing as ghosts, is usually protecting their own vulnerability in it.
Yeah, I agree. It's like,
sorry,
those are the people who are usually, that's the cynical attitude. Because they haven't bothered to look into things, and they are the armchair cynic, not a skeptic. They are a cynic because they just dismiss it. And then when you ask them, like, well, what do you think caused some of these experiences? And they just, nothing. It's just silly people and believing stupid shit and all that. And they don't have an excuse. They don't have an explanation. So it's just people making up their minds before they have any information on the topic. So, yeah, I mean, I if they ask me like that or something like that, like, I don't know. I don't know. That's why I keep looking. I'm with Kev. I hope someday to meet a ghost in person, because I want to see if they're squishy. I'm going to poke them.
Weird Fox is saying, thank you, gents, for coming on. Do people sense spooks from EMF readings, or do EMF readings create the spooks?
So technically, we know to a point that high EMF can cause a kind of paranoia-ish that comes with it if you're in the right area at the same time. So you're in a spooky building and it's dark and that kind of stuff. It can trigger that mild paranoia, could trigger maybe a more sensitive hyperarousal or something else. But there's also not much in regards to the studies about EMF creating that effect in people. So EMF has become this big thing in the paranormal because of TV shows and the God Helmet experiment was in Persing or whatever, which again hasn't really been repeated with success since. But it's been utilized as a way to make EMF meters look good on camera and look good in like when investigating the paranormal.
Yeah, I don't think it's. This is a interesting question because I don't think it's either or. I think it's the same exact thing because yeah, you have these meters that people use because they've seen them on TV, and there's an assumption that it's associated with spirits and ghosts and stuff like that. So if a meter goes off, if your K2 lights up behind you, Justin, people will say take that as a ghost.
Well,
so
off for starters.
it does create the ghost. And then ghost hunters will take that lighting up as an indication of a ghost. So it's doing both at the same time. But I mean, yeah, there's been experiments where certain frequencies, certain EMF frequencies in a pattern, not all at once. It's not like you walk into a zone and you just start hallucinating, because if you did, everyone within like neon lights and computers and monitors and stuff would have hallucinations all the time. It's usually in a strict pattern where you begin to have these mild hallucinations, but also contextual cues. If you're in a dark house that's unfamiliar to you and your K2 meter lights up, yeah, that creates an environment where it's like, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah.
It'll be just a generator in the basement cycling on and off or something like that.
Okay, one here from Chris52 saying, have you heard of the hitchhiker effect seeming to happen after an experience?
Hitchhiker effect.
So I'm assuming that's, you have
attachments.
I'd imagine, I'm assuming that's kind of like where you might see something and then on the way home, something like that, you see something in the rearview mirror and in your car with you. I'm assuming that's the kind of thing.
That's just the psychological issues that you get from being in a scary situation. It's a mild trauma that we go through being in a haunted location or whatever. It's also been used a lot. The Ramin used to do it, John, when he was alive, would say, make sure you sleep with a crucifix under your pillow once you've been here, because you'll get an attachment. It's selling into that psychological aspect where people really freak out. So it's to be expected. It's, if you're in the dark and you're scared, you're putting your brain through trauma. You're inducing that response, and as long as what I'm thinking that is kind of as you leave a place, following off after an experience, you're going to be on edge. You're going to be in a state of hyperarousal. You're going to be more likely to experience hallucinations or place something of danger into that situation. So yeah, it's 100% a real thing, but it's also not a paranormal experience. It's a psychological.
It's like when you watch a horror movie, especially late at night, and as soon as the movie's over, every little creak in your house, every pop or crack or whatever, you jump like, what's that? What's it? My wife does it all the time, and hopefully she's not watching, because then I'm going to get in trouble. But yeah, you like, what was that? Well, who's that at the door? But you don't do that normally. You watch a comedy or a rom-com, and you don't jump at every noise in your house. It's only after horror movies.
Mike Smith is saying, if you're a skeptic stroke debunker that got a real experience, isn't there a risk you will try to debunk it into oblivion?
I touched on this a little bit earlier, that yes, I will try to figure out what's going on, because that's my job, to investigate it. And even if it happened to me, my job is to investigate what happened. But eventually I'm going to pass it off to somebody else and say, please take a look at this. So it's a more objective point of view and not mine, because I'm the one that had the experience. I can tell you, but I'm interpreting it one way and I may not know everything. I mean, every case that I do, I consult different people because I don't know everything. And I think that's a big mistake of ghost hunters. We get this ego where we think we do know everything. So
that's the problem with the ego. Is it's one of those situations where, well, I'm the best at what I do. It's like I've been doing this years, and I study hard. I read a lot of books. I go down all kinds of rabbit holes and things, but at no point in all of that time have I gone, oh, I'm not sure what this is. It must be paranormal. I've
Yeah.
gone, I don't know what this is, but I do know that they study something similar. So let me go and talk to them, or I lay everything out to them and say, this is the situation. Have you heard of this before? Is there something that can cause it? And then weirdly, once I've done that discussion with them, I've now learnt more that if I come across that situation again, I know which way I'm going. And as
Yeah.
long as you do that continuously, you get more and more knowledge, you get a clearer outcome, which is going to put you either, well, the only way to describe it is closer to the truth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just very quickly, Joe Vitale, thank you so much for the super chat. $4.99 US. It's air pressure, Kenny Biddle. That's what he's saying.
That's right.
There you go.
Air pressure. Don't underestimate nature. That's all I'm saying.
Mythos is asking, where can we see or join Kev? I feel like I've missed out on some information about his workshops. Would love to take in some information. There we go. You can plug away, Kev.
Oh, nice. Well, I'm everywhere. Literally any social media base, but your best bet is really through Facebook. I put some stuff up on YouTube. I do bits in podcasts and that kind of stuff, but my Facebook page is where I'm active almost all the time and posting things. And with my workshop, basically I just post up when it's there. You go on Eventbrite, type in Kev Kerr Paranormal, and you'll find my latest place where I'm going to be doing it.
There you go. Yeah, don't say I don't give you promotion.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, nice one.
Right. Anna's the same question for both. Is there a space in which people can believe in ghosts if it brings them comfort? Asked by a skeptic, she says.
Yeah. I mean, my philosophy is that your personal beliefs are personal. And that's the thing. If you want to believe something, it's your choice. You can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt other people. It's when you start promoting those beliefs out into the public and trying to get people to be convinced of what you're saying, or try to buy a product or believe something that you want them to believe. It's open to critique, and I will criticize it, or I will bring it up. I mean, if it's a good idea, then yeah, I'm going to say that too. But I'm also going to point out any flaws. This often comes up when somebody just lost somebody. If they've lost a loved one, and they come to me and say, "Hey, I had this experience. I don't know if I should tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I thought I saw my father, who just passed away a month ago, and I thought he came to me in a dream, and it brought me comfort." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you want from me?" And they're like, "Well, what do you think of this? Is this something?" Like, it depends on how you're going to use it. Are you going to go out and try to convert people to a cult because of this experience? No. Well, then enjoy it. If it brings you comfort, enjoy it. There's no reason for me to speak up against that, because that's something personal to you, and I will never take that away from them. Unless, of course, they start promoting it and try to get a contract and TV show, and then it's open to criticism. So
there you go.
So there's your space.
Okay, Beardo's just saying, is Kev going to be annoyed that I refuse to take my notepad this week just because he says we have to?
Take your fucking notepad.
That was good. Damn it, Beardo.
Friday House is saying, what subjects should a person study to become a better paranormal investigator?
Come on the workshop if you want.
That's good. Good way to self-promote. Yeah, I have a recommended books list. That if you shoot me a message or an email, I will send you a list of books that I recommend everyone reads. And I also have a handout that I give strategies for solving a mystery, and they help a little bit. But subjects, I mean, for me, photography, video editing. Understand that, because that's going to be the bulk of what people present to you.
Yeah.
Understand basic science. Get a science book. Understand the scientific method and the different versions of it, and what each step means. Get a book on critical thinking. to understand how to look for the little details, to ask the right questions. There's actually a couple books on my list specifically about critical thinking and asking the right questions. And then journalists, interview techniques and stuff. Ask questions. Make sure you understand. Don't make assumptions. Look at the equipment that's being used and just understand the readings. Read about the components and what they measure, and then look at the units that are being used for that measuring, and understand what the units mean.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, "Oh, it's a 12 milligauss. That means a ghost." And you ask them like, "What's a milligauss?" And they're like, "Oh, it's 12, right?" No, no. So, I mean, that's off the top of my head. I mean, just learn about
that's
that.
a great answer. That's a great answer. I love that. Kev, do you want to add anything to that?
That's pretty much it. I think if you're based in the UK, and it depends if you want to be on that residential front or if you want to be doing locations. You've got ASAP and SPR. The SPR are fantastic. They've got the Investigator's Guides, which is 2 small books written by Steve Parsons. There's another one called Ghostology by Steve Parsons, which breaks down each individual piece of equipment and types of microphones and all of these things in one place for you to get a really good learning of what these basic things are. And then if you find like yourself drawn towards certain things, like me with psychology, I love the brain, so I dig down those wormholes all the time. Or you might like equipment, so just start learning as much as you can. And what you'll realize is, as you're learning, you'll begin to see that maybe 40% of what you learned is actually a load of bullshit, and it's been disproven. And you slowly, as you build, you clear out the crap, and then you get some really good information, and then you become a better investigator for it. Is it? I think
there we go.
Subscribe. Subscribe.
I subscribe to Skeptical.
Okay. And we've gone over the hour, gents, but are you okay just for a bit longer? Are you okay, or do you need to get off?
Fine. No,
Go
Jay,
2 hours.
It could be easily. JT is asking, do either of our guests believe in an afterlife despite the lack of evidence?
I don't.
I think it'd be nice, but I haven't, in all these time and all these years, I haven't really found anything that makes me go, "Well, yeah, there could be an afterlife." The afterlife aspect doesn't really seem to fall into it.
Yeah.
So many different versions, depending on who you talk to, what group they're affiliated with, what religion they were brought up with. I'll find out when I die, if there is anything, or I just plan on getting some sleep finally. That's about it. But I'm open to it. I'm totally open to it. If sufficient evidence comes to light, I'm on board, but I haven't seen that yet. So
yeah. Debunk the Jungle. We were talking about EMF earlier, but I think he's probably even answered his own question here. So the age-old question, which came first, the ghost or the EMF detector? Considering EMF meters were designed to find bad wiring, not dead relatives, I think the ghost may have had the head start. Any thoughts?
I mean, the ghost, definitely ghost came first. EMF meters were designed to measure magnetic fields, not find bad wiring. But they were developed to find and measure magnetic fields, which are produced when you have the flow of electricity. And then the early ones, the earliest handheld EMF meter I could find came out in the 80s, right around Ghostbusters in 84. And I can only find a picture of this meter. I couldn't find an actual meter, but I know that it started then.
That's quite telling, isn't it?
Relation, yeah,
that's really telling.
A PKE meter, yeah,
exactly. Dealey Boy is saying, if you think some paranormal activity can be real, what do you think causes it? That's a really open, wide question. That's a really hard one.
It can be anything from, like I say, the psychological aspects, whether it's something we experience in ourselves or something we project from our brains and create it in the atmosphere. Not that it's known as possible. At the same time, it could be anything, whether it's within quantum mechanics, and we look at the idea that there's these tiny little wormholes that are able to move things around. There's thousands upon thousands of hypotheses out there that just say could be this, could be that, could be that. We've never actually found one that goes, yep, that's a paranormal based thing. But there's some interesting theories. That's a good discussion for, an evening with some beers in a fire pit type.
Yeah.
Right.
Just very quickly, Beardo, am I wearing that god awful jumper tomorrow? Hang on. You better believe it. It's right here.
Beardo gets
Right.
lots of pictures of that.
Just for you, Beardo. Just for you. I've got it ready and waiting for you. You get all cozied up with me.
I hope Beardo shows up with the same one. Be twinsies.
Yeah. Can you imagine if he just turns up in some kind of weird polo neck like that? Anyway, I can't see it being a Beardo thing. Right. Let's do the last couple of questions. One here, UK Paranormal Search, Phil saying, as an investigator that does not use equipment, is there anything that you would recommend to take on location apart from a pen and a notepad?
I was looking to see if my bag was around here. Pen and notepad, spirit level, tape measure. Always take a tape measure with you. Extra pens, pencils sometimes, flashlight, UV light, a ball. Just take a regular ball. That helps sometimes to see if there's dips in the floor, and just rolling around how something would roll if it fell off.
A pram would be good.
A pram, a wheel, a ball. Take a brick with you, because instead of putting a pram at the top of the stairs, put a brick. Because I'd be so much more impressed if that flew off the stairs.
That's good.
That's all I can think of right now, and it really comes back to what the claims are, and that dictates what you're going to bring.
Kaz is saying, could I get a list of the books? Well, could Justin, can we get a list of the books recommended by Kev and Kenny? So, Ken, if you pass me that recommended reading list, if you send that to me, I will put it out on Facebook, basically, and then people can take a look. And then, I can absolutely do that. Not a problem. Okay, just going to do the last one or two. Oh, hang on a second. My laptop loves me. Okay, let's go down.
I mean, I'm good. I'm at work, so I can stay all day.
Hello.
Yeah, I've got no problem. So.
Oh, okay. I've just had something. Oh, I was just say I just had some really interesting. My chat went blank. That's cool. Hang on. That's really useful for like when you're searching for questions. Right.
It's awesome during live shows. Justin can't handle his platform.
Bugger off. Mike, Larry, thank you so much for the gifted 20 memberships. Thank you so much. Again, you and Kaz have just helped the channel so much. Thank you so much for that. It really helps hugely. Okay. I'm very last thing. I'm literally whizzing down the chat. I apologize if I'm missing any of yours. Here we go. Friday House is saying, with anything subatomic and below the known laws of physics seem to go by the wayside, do you think some answers for the paranormal can be found in quantum mechanics? There you go.
Possibly.
So I would say right off the bat, I am not a physicist, so this is out of my wheelhouse. And the physicists that I have talked to, that I have spoken with, have pretty much made it clear, no. There is no room for it. It doesn't allow for it unless you begin making stuff up in order to inject it into the various theory. But that is not my wheelhouse, so I'm not the person to ask on this.
There you go.
No, it's a fair shout. There's a book called Science, PS Science, which kind of attempts to put current theories within quantum mechanics into like a paranormal perspective. But as Kenny said, it's kind of how much I couldn't read it and say, well, that's not possible, or that's it seems scientific. There's no doubt about it, but I can't sit there and kind of pull it apart because theoretical physics is not really my strong point.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this is a good example of how people interpret or misinterpret or make assumptions. And I'm not saying that's what he was doing. I want to make that clear. But if we read headlines, like a new paper was published, a peer-reviewed paper was published, says physics proves ghosts. Ignore the article, ignore the headline, go right to the paper and try to read the paper, and then contact a physicist or someone related to whatever field the paper is in. Because if you don't understand it, if you don't have the training in it, it's easy for us to misinterpret and make assumptions because we want to connect the dots. Even if the dots are here and here and we just, all over the place, and then we finally end up at that dot because we made it so. Seek out experts and consult them. Most scientists, if you reach out to them with a question and you're polite and professional, they'll answer you. So get that opinion, get that professional opinion. Don't try to pretend that you know what it's about or use it because you saw a headline. Because the headlines are clickbait. They're just trying to get you to click on the article. And most of the time, it doesn't reflect anywhere near as accurate as the paper presents.
So it's worth noting with that, and a lot of people sort of listening, is it sometimes you can easily think, oh, I couldn't possibly contact this person. They are just people. Most of the time, their papers are put into journals, and you have to pay to read those papers. If you know the name of the person who's written it, you can contact them directly and say, and they'll transfer you a copy. They've got no issue with that most of the time. But they'll also, like, you could ask a few questions as well. And if you've got a good point, sometimes they're really interested in your viewpoint on it, and you can build quite a good relationship. So you can their next paper or their next part of their experimentation that they're doing, they'll begin to explain to you, and you can build some really good relationships, and they are just normal people. It's like, how could I possibly email this scientist? If they don't reply, then you've lost nothing. If they reply, you can gain the paper for free. They can break it down for you. They can clarify things for you, and you give you a much better understanding than if you're relying on an article that's written by, like, don't get me wrong, like Rob Lee back in our day, Kenny, he did an amazing skeptical website, and then now he's a science journalist, but he went and studied quantum physics in order to do that. A lot of the people writing these articles don't have that scientific background, so find out who the scientist is, or the doctor is, or whoever's done it, and go and approach them directly, and it'll push you on so much faster.
And I can guarantee scientists love talking about their work. It's not an ego thing. They just love it. It's a passion. So if someone is interested, they're happy to talk about it.
Just very, Simon, I know it says one quick thiggy. It's called a question, Simon. Anyway, I know he says, I know everyone's sick of the pram, but as Justin is going tomorrow, has anyone actually checked the pram itself? I mean, if it's a prop permanently East Drive, it could well be rigged. It doesn't, trust me, it doesn't need to be rigged. It has wheels. It's on a sloping landing. But anyway, yes, Simon, I will check over it. I'll look for little motors and little strings or whatever it is that may have made that fall downstairs. But I tell you now, it is due to gravity and very, micro movements of vibrations and things that's making that move over time. I will tell you that now. I'm quite sure. But I will check for you, Simon. I will.
Nice.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. I think we're just about done. First of all, just thank you so much, guys, for coming on. It's like I say, always an absolute pleasure. Always, it's good to have solid, sensible advice. Because away from the, like you say, the headlines, the attention grabbing stuff, and the nastiness, the backstabbing shit that goes along with the paranormal, it's nice just to have a decent conversation with people who are not skeptically minded, but just touting common sense. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. It's just common sense approach to investigating and the paranormal. Is there anything? I know I will give you extra time, Kev, to plug away, whatever you want to do. But Kenny, is there anything that I'm going to go to Kenny first because otherwise Kev will take up all the time. Kenny, is there anything you would like to promote, Kenny? Anything that you are currently working on? Anything you want to promote for yourself?
So yeah, if you're interested in the work that I do or anything, learning more about what I said here, you can go to skepticalinquirer.org, and look for my name, Kenny Biddle, and my authors page will come up. I have 100+ articles or videos up there. And I go into pretty much everything. I do workshops when I can at different conferences, either science conferences or paranormal conferences. I like to show up and talk when they let me, because some won't let me.
Strange.
But, I mean, this is the magazine that I write. I know, right? Like you debunk one of their favorite haunted spots, and like you're never allowed to come back. But this is the magazine that I work for, I write for. Most of my stuff is online because, as you can tell, I talk a lot and therefore I write a lot. So it's usually larger than what can fit in the magazine. I'm also on YouTube, and I do a Friday night show, 8 p.m. Eastern time, my time, every Friday night. And it's called the Skeptical Help Bar. And you come out and we hang out. We do pretty much this. Sometimes I have a guest like this, or sometimes it's just me. And we have a good time. And rum. Yeah, and rum. Lots of rum.
Come on then, Kev. Plug away.
That was a lot longer than
I'm gonna go pee. So I'll come back. We'll still be talking.
No, so look for me on Facebook. So Kev Kerr Paranormal. I'm on YouTube as well. I do workshops called The Beginner's Guide to Paranormal Investigation, which is looking at the basics, going back to the basics, going back to, as we went through today, all the things we need to be looking for and the mindset that we need to have. And then on top of that, at the end of May, I believe, I'm doing a talk at Parameet, which is a conference up in Hinkley Way, sort of in the Midlands. So if anyone wants to come along, I would suggest, if you want to talk about the paranormal, whether you're a believer, whether you're a skeptic, whatever part of the paranormal you're into, whether it's cryptozoology or anything, come along to Parameet. You're going to have a great time. It's on for the weekend. It's a lot of discussions, a lot of drinks, a lot of talks.
As I say, you will find Kev doing his talk on stage, but mainly you'll find him by the bar. Gotta say. Yep. Or sitting outside, lounging, whatever. That's where I tend to find it.
I see nothing wrong with it. Be right there with him.
It's the best place to be. You watch a couple of talks, you take. But I mean, actually, the social aspect of it, the social side of lots of like-minded people. It is a great thing, and it's a really good community thing, for those that allow you to be there. For starters, But, thank you guys so much this evening. It has been just superb. Absolutely loved it this evening, and like I say, I know this is almost like a condensed version of what we could be talking about.
Yeah, we didn't even get into mental health.
Yeah, exactly, like that. Exactly. So by all means, and I say this every time, but I really, really do mean it. Come on to this podcast whenever you want to. If you've got like a bee in your bonnet or something's happened and you think I have to talk about this, or I might just bring you in like I did this week and just think, we need to talk about residential stuff. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure this evening. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day or rest of your evening.
Right. Yeah. And it was good to see you too, Kev. It was good to see you, man.
Always.
Fuck Justin. I don't care.
Jesus, Kenny.
He's just there.
Right, hang on. Kenny. Just me and Kev.
See? Been here the whole time.
Screw you, Kenny. Well, thank you so much, Kev. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers, Josh. Take care, bud.
Speak to you soon.
Catch you.
Oh man, love that. So cool. Really, really enjoyed that. Hang on a second, let's just put my screen up there. Thank you to all these people, or to all you people in the chat that's joined us this evening. Just an absolute pleasure. To Kaza and Mike for the gifted memberships, thank you so much, and Joe Vitali for his donation and super chat as well. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm going to be at 30 East Drive tomorrow. I'm going to try and basically do a little. I mean, I know that there may be some live streams going on, whether that's Beardo or Lee from Three Spires or Staffordshire Paranormal doing it. But I'm definitely going to try and do like a live stream just from my phone, so I can chat to you guys from 30s Drive, and I might do a members only one as well if I've got time. I'm not staying overnight there or anything like that, but it'll be good. Next Monday, I've got Professor Cal Cooper back on the podcast. Extremely knowledgeable man. And it's going to be a really good talk with him as well. So that's next. And this Thursday coming, I'm going to be doing another Chips Tea Party. So in a couple of days' time. So if you missed me on Easter Drive, I'm going to be doing a Chips Tea Party on Thursday. Phew. One very, very quick last thing. I've just mentioned this. For anybody who has not, I've got a brand new Facebook page. So before I had a Facebook profile, which now I'm going to be putting more and more stuff through the Facebook page, whether that's photos, whether that's the recommended reading that Kaz was talking about, anything linked to this podcast, I'm going to be doing on this Facebook page. So please think about just QR coding this one, zapping it over to Facebook and following the Facebook page. I'd be very, very much appreciated. Right, we're done. Thank you guys ever so much for this evening. Thoroughly enjoyed it, thoroughly loved it. And thank you to Kenny and Kev and for all of you guys for joining me. I shall see you tomorrow night. Okay, night, guys. Bye-bye.